Yeah, let me mention something that you might appreciate. Kidnapping was not subject to the death penalty in New Jersey in the 1930s, but burglary was. So an accidental death in the course of a burglary could result in execution. That was the theory that the prosecution started with, is that the death was accidental during this burglary. And the burglary that they came up with was the sleeping suit the child was wearing, which is not worth very much money. And they made the claim that at common law, it could still be a felony. And that was a big issue for the defense. So the question was whether taking a sleeping suit was a felony in the first place, and then the accidental death resulting in execution. So that was the theory it was tried on until the closing argument. But in fact, the police already knew that the sleeping suit wasn't even taken permanently. Condon received the sleeping suit back in the mail as proof that the child was being held by a gang of kidnappers, which was the theory that Lindbergh had pushed from the very start until Hauptmann's arrest. After that, it became a lone wolf. But the sleeping suit came back, so it wasn't even a permanent taking. But that was a very slim read on which they got the death penalty. The other reason they were able to pursue the case as they did was that Dr. Mitchell, who was the medical examiner, was convinced to commit perjury. He had been very clear in previous testimony that the death couldn't have resulted from a fall from the second story. But he was coached to say that the child died instantly at the farmhouse. And at that point, the only theory was that he'd been dropped from the second story in the burlap bag. He said that it wasn't true, but the reason they asked him to do that is because if the child didn't die at the farmhouse, this whole trial was in the wrong county. And that was an issue that was being raised, because if the child died where he was found in these woods, it was another county.
Interesting.
And it would have been the county where Trenton was located, and the capital, and the jury pool would have been far different and maybe more favorable to the defense, much more, because in this rural county where Lindbergh lived, everybody worshipped him. Most people did.